Hey guys, Forex here, hope you're all well. What you're looking at in front of you is a faulty Mega Drive II. This has a number of faults. The first fault is a very common problem with the Mega Drive II. If I power on the system and it's plugged in through the Mega Drive power adapter, if I wiggle the power input jack, you can see it's flaky. So I need to sort that out. The second fault, if I actually hold it till I get the console to come on, if I power up and show you what's on my screen, I'm getting absolutely nothing, black screen. So I think there's a secondary fault there somewhere, but before I can get on to fix that, I need to take care of that flaky power jack. Okay, I have the Mega Drive motherboard out. If I turn it around and show you the power jack, you can see it's wobbling like a tooth. If I turn it over, you can see the classic dry joint. This is a very common problem with the Mega Drive II. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fire on my desoldering gun, and I'm going to remove this power jack. I'm going to remove all the old crusty solder and put some nice new fresh solder on there. Okay, what I'm going to do now is just come along and get rid of that connector. I'm going to take my desoldering gun and just whip that thing off. Okay, I got there in the end. What the problem was is it was just this pin here. It was being a little bit tricky because, you know, this is the larger pad and it was just sucking the heat out of my desoldering gun. But yeah, I got it off. Okay, I think I told you how this problem arises and why this is a common fault. If you look at the actual connector, what you can see is the connections are right at the very back of the connector. So pretty much what happens when you plug in and take the power adapter in and out is you're pretty much doing this. You're putting all your pressure down like this, and then when you take it out, that goes away, right? Same again, when you push your power adapter in again, you're pushing it out, and it's basically like a rocking horse, and all the pressure is bared by those pads at the back, because it's like a lever action. If you look at it, you know, most of those connections are at the back. So what I'm going to do to see if I can fix this so it never happens again is I'm going to take a little bit of super glue and I'm going to glue this connector in, and then when I've holded it there for a few minutes, that's when I'm going to solder in the connections. No flare. That should fix the problem and we never get a problem like this again with this Mega Drive II. Okay, one freshly soldered power jack. That should be fine now. Hopefully that super glue does the job. I mean, I only put it on at the front just to stop it levering, doing that lever action on those pins at the back. But yeah, they're nicely soldered in, nice new fresh solder. So what I can do now is get onto the other problem with this thing. Let's see if I can repair that. Okay, I have the power jack in the back. It's power on. Yeah, we got power. Give it a wiggle. Wiggle, 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 yeah. Perfectly fine. So that's fixed the power jack issue. But as you can see, I'm still getting a black screen. Now, one thing I've noticed, if I power off and I leave it a few seconds, watch what my TV does. There you go, see how it comes up no signal. Now if I power on, and it just goes completely dark. Now what that's telling me is the video encoder chip, this chip here, is functioning because it's outputting. And when there's no data going to the video encoder chip, you get a black screen like this. So it's definitely outputting something, otherwise I'd get that no signal. So what I need to do is find out why I'm getting a black screen. Now the most common problem is the cartridge slot itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a few minutes to clean it. Okay, super easy to clean a cartridge slot. I've already showed this in my Famicom video, one of my Famicom videos, but I'll show it again. Just take some cord, fold it up, fit it around your credit card or debit card, whatever. I'm using a screw fix card. You just soak the paper in IPA. Take your card, fold it over like this, make sure it's nice and flat. Just grab it and you push it and pull it in and out the cartridge slot. So I'm going to do this a bit more, and when I've finished we'll give the finger test. Okay, cartridge slot's been cleaned. Let's give it a try. Now it's been cleaned, power on, see what we get. We're still getting a black screen. So yeah, this is a little bit more serious than a cartridge slot issue. Let me just give it a few attempts just to make sure. Power back on. Yeah, we're still getting a black screen. So yeah, it looks to be a little bit more serious. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to spend 10 minutes looking over the board to see if I can see like any obvious damage. Also what I'll do is I'll take my multimeter and start looking for voltage, see if it's going all around the board, see if there's any shorts or anything like that, and if I find anything I'll come back and let you know. Okay, I've spent the last 20 minutes having a look around to see if I can see anything. Did a visual inspection, used my multimeter to see if I could find any shorts or any missing voltages anywhere. Everything looks fine. One of the things to look out for, if you do get a cartridge slot issue, is look at the back of the actual cartridge slot, the pins that connect the cartridge slots to the motherboard. Just have a look there, see if there's any dry joints. But on this board everything looks fine. There's no power issue, there's no short, visual inspection not good. So I think it's time I busted out the big tools, just to start doing some probing, looking at signals, see if I can find anything wrong. So what I'll do is I'll fire up my scope, I'll have a look, see what I can see, and if there's anything I'll come back and let you know. Houston, we have a major problem. The first signal I tested, can't believe it. Yeah, whenever I get to a point like this where I'm getting a black screen and I've exhausted all my options, like cleaning a cartridge slot, check power distribution, see if there's anything physically wrong with the board, and I find nothing, I just dive in straight at the deep end and look at the CPU, see if it's doing anything. Now whenever you're looking at a CPU, the first thing you do is make sure its controlling inputs are working properly, and that's things like clock, reset, halt, that type of stuff. And what do you know, the first signal I tested, clock, is missing, and I'll show you that. If I get my scope probe and I probe the clock pin, try to do this without shorting anything, which is there. Oops, slipped off. There. You can see we've got no clock. Now if I remove my scope probe, you'll see it drop low again. There. So we're totally missing clock on the CPU. Now what also I did was test the Z80 and the master crystal. and I'll show you what they display. Okay guys, I had to stop the video because I needed to remove my ground clip and put it somewhere closer to the Z80 and the master crystal, because you know I've only got a short ground clip. So what I'm going to do now is probe the output of the Z80, but first I want to show you my scope working. So if I probe this pin, this is a 5-volt pin, and if I show you on my scope, you can see it's 5 volts. If I let go, you'll see the voltage drop. There you go. So that just proves my scope's working. Always a good test to do, you know, because you might probe something and you realise I've got my scope on the wrong setting. So yeah, just to rule that out. What I want to do now is probe the Z80. Now it doesn't have Z80 written on it, but it's pretty much a Z80 equivalent. Yeah, anyway, I'm getting off track. This pin here is the clock input, this very end pin, and right next to it is a via, so I'll use the via because it's easier to get to. So if I put my probe in there and we look at the scope, we get absolutely nothing. So we're missing a clock on the Z80 as well. Now let me explain a little bit how this works. You've got a master crystal, and this goes into this chip here, and this is going at 53.2 megahertz. This chip basically divides the clock down for the Z80 by 15. So you take this, you divide that by 15, and you get the clock for the Z80. Now you've seen that's not working, and if you do exactly the same thing, you take this, it goes into here, and you divide, this chip divides that by 7, that's the clock for the 68K. And obviously that's missing. So there's only one culprit. What the problem can be, it's either this chip or the master crystal. Now I can't test this chip, but the easiest way to test is probe the master crystal. If the master crystal is oscillating, then this chip has failed. If the master crystal is not oscillating, then we can probably say this chip is okay and the master crystal's failed. So what I'm going to do now is probe. You can see I've marked it again. This point here, this is a ferrite bead. If I probe that point there, and we take a look at my scope, absolutely nothing. Now if we go to the opposite side of that ferrite bead, which is the direct output of the crystal, to rule out that ferrite bead being a problem, and if I probe there, and we look at there with the scope again, absolutely nothing. So the culprit is this master crystal. It's failed. So I think I may have a master crystal that I can replace. I think I got one out of a Master System years ago. You can do that. You can take the master crystal out of a Master System or Mega Drive and swap them. They're both the same, as long as you're using a PAL system. And I put a PAL master crystal in this system. It should be okay. So I'm going to see if I can find that. I'll get this master crystal out and put the other one in and see if it fires back up to life. Okay, now I know that crystal's failed, what I'm going to do is come along and put a mark on it. So now it's crap, and I'm going to get my desoldering gun and suck that off. Yeah, insert your own jokes. Yep, we should come out now. Okay, master crystal's out. Just got to go and find a replacement now. Okay, 25 minutes later, I found one. It was buried right at the bottom of my parts bin. What I'm going to do now is whip this in there, solder it in, and we can give this system a test, see if it works. Okay, new crystal soldered in. You can see the old one. Let's power on, see what we get. And what do you know? What do you know? Unbelievable. Yeah, That's what it was. Dead crystal. Yeah, what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to hook my scope up to this because I want to see what the clock signals look like when they're fully working. So give me a second and I'll set that up. So okay, let's take a look at the 68K clock signal. Again, I'm going to be very careful with this because I don't want to short anything, especially now I've just fixed the thing. So okay, that's the clock pin. We look at my scope, and there you go. That's a clock signal, alright. So yeah, that was the clock signal for the 68K. What I'll do now is I'll show you the clock signal for the Z80 and the master crystal. Okay, I've moved my grounding clip. What I'm going to do now is show you the clock for the Z80. If I probe that point there, that's the clock. And as you can see, we've got a clock signal. Now what I'm going to do is show you the output for the master crystal, which is just there. And you can see the master crystal output. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to change a setting on the scope just so you can see that a little bit better. Okay, I've changed the setting on my scope. I can't do it while I'm filming at the same time. So again, I'll probe this point here, which is the output to the master crystal. And if we look at the scope, you can see the output. So yeah, there you go, guys. The system was fixed. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get the lid back on it and I can wrap the video up. Okay guys, we're all bolted back together. High power on. You can see we have a fully working Mega Drive II. And all what it was a failed master crystal. So yeah, there you go guys. What I'm going to do now is leave you with a picture which shows you how the Mega Drive generates its clocks. Also what I did is I took some photos with my scope and you'll see those clocks. And yeah, so if you like the video guys, like, comment, subscribe, all the usual stuff. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.